Welcome to Next Gen Agile podcast. I'm Shefali, and this is where we will have real conversations with Agile practitioners from around the world about what's actually happening in our organizations, not just what should be happening. Today's episode is incredibly special because it's my very first podcast, and I am diving into a topic that I think hits close to home for so many of us: Agile Theater. You know, that phenomena where team looks like they are doing Agile on the surface, stand ups, retrospective, sprint planning, but something fundamental is missing. The ceremonies exist, but the outcomes don't. The framework is there, but the mindset isn't. And to explore this with me, I have the perfect guest. Israel has spent 25 years in tech, working across the full spectrum as a developer, coach, and program leader. He's often been the person organization calls when things are on fire, when clarity is missing. He is the creator of OrdoMinds, a platform designed to help leaders and teams recognize behavioral patterns, reduce dysfunction, and build environments where trust, ownership, and real collaboration can actually exist. And here's what really drew me to this conversation. Israel believes that most organizations don't fail from lack of frameworks. They fail from lack of alignment between behavior, incentives, and decision making. And here is the gap. So, where the Agile Theater is born. So, let's dive in. Hello, Israel, and welcome to Next Gen Agile podcast. I'm so glad you are here for this episode. And yes, of course, I'm a little bit nervous because this is something new that I'm starting. So, before we dive into the topic that is Agile Theater for today, please tell me and the audience who are listening to this podcast more about yourself, where you are based out, and of course, what is your current role. So, please.
All right. Thank you for having me here. Shefali, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. And my name is Israel Bovolini. I'm 47 years old, living in São Paulo, Brazil. I currently work as a service delivery manager for OrdoMinds. It's an international consultancy company. I started in tech really when I was really young. I was 18, 19 years old. So I grew up inside delivery pressure. I spent more than 25 years leading teams through complexity. That's the best way I can summarize my experience. I coded, I made business analysis, I ran projects as a manager, and for the past 13 years or so, I've been working as a full-time agilist, not necessarily a scrum master, but someone who actually implements agile in companies. I was a coach. Sometimes, actually, most of the times, I was the only adult in the room, kind of bringing the conversation to a point where we could advance. Um, I'm all about turning chaos into clarity without breaking people too much,
Mhm,
um, and helping them basically work better. I
mhm.
care deeply about execution, integrity, and building systems that actually work, not only the beautiful in status report, but actually bring change to people's lives.
Great. That's really fantastic. And the experience that you have is really huge. And I would say people who would listen to this podcast will really benefit out of your experience. So let's get into it. So today we are talking about Agile Theater, and I think everyone who has worked in Agile has either seen it, experienced it, or maybe even unknowingly participated in it at some point of time. So, what does Agile Theater actually look like? What are the signs that a team is just going through some motions?
Most likely, show theater. Agile theater, it's where the form is present, but the intent is absent. So you see daily stand-ups, you do the sprint planning, the retros, all the events that are defined by Scrum, and all the ceremonies that are happening, nothing is actually changing. So a couple of typical signs. Stand-ups are status reports for managers. Sprint commitments are just like contracts. Retros happen, but nothing improves. Velocity is tracked, but value is unclear. Teams are empowered, but decisions still happen above them.
Mhm.
It looks busy, it looks organized, but in the end, it doesn't feel alive. Agile theater is movement without learning.
Yes, correct. So, in that case, my next question would be, why do organizations end up faking agile instead of actually practicing it? So,
That's a
what is driving that behavior in your point of view?
That's actually a fascinating question because essentially agile challenges power structures. And
Mm-hmm.
real agility requires decentralized decision making, tolerance for uncertainty, psychological safety. It requires leadership behavioral change. And those things are hard. People are used to do things in a certain way. And
Mm-hmm.
bringing agile to the table challenges this comfort that the custom provides. So organizations often they adopt the agile vocabulary instead of the values. Um, agile allows them to say we are modern, without becoming actually modern. It's not malice. It's pretty much fear plus incentives plus habits that why people fake agile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. No, that's true. I mean, when I also look into many organizations, everybody wants to be agile on paper, where they say that yes, we are transforming. But actually, when we get into the mud with them, the picture is really different. So that's well said. So what do you think? What is the difference between a team that is genuinely working in agile way versus one that is just performing agile rituals?
I would say the biggest indicator is silence because teams that actually practice agile, they do agile, they cannot stop talking. They will inspect
Yeah.
all the time. They are giving their suggestions, they're giving their inputs. They are saying no sometimes for requirements that are not clear, purpose that's not clear. So if a team remains silent, usually it's interpreted as disengagement. I
Mhm.
see that as fake agile in the room. People don't feel safe enough to, or don't care enough to give their inputs.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, faking is one thing. What I feel, according to my experiences, people don't care much. It's like, it's there. Okay, if we are using one or two tools, then I think we are doing agile. What more do you expect out of me, when I'm practicing agile? So that's the behavior that comes in with these teams that are actually not doing agile and performing agile. Yeah, you're
Mhm.
correct. So now this brings me to another question. What have you observed? Like, what's the harm in agile theater? Does it matter if teams are just checking the boxes but getting work done?
Absolutely. Uh, it's bad that people are just checking boxes because essentially it creates the illusion of improvement while it preserves the same dysfunction. So agile, I
Hmm.
usually say agile is like a mirror. It will show whatever is good or bad as it is. So creating illusion, it's not only a harm, it's dangerous. Um, Once leaders believe they are agile, they stop looking deeper. So we achieved something. Agile theater often leads to burnout from artificial urgency. Everything shifts all the time. Um,
Hmm.
it also leads to accountability without authority. So they ask the team to fix the problems, but they need approval from some higher up. Gaming metrics, that's very common, right? We don't just care about velocity. So we are gaming velocity to make the illusion that we are increasing. And
Mhm.
I would say the most dangerous of all, it brings cynicism inside teams. They are not just running fake agile, they become fake professionals. They are faking everything just for the sake of paying the bills and keeping their jobs. So the team stop believing that improvement is possible. And when that happens, that's where talent leaves. I can speak for my own experience.
Yeah, I think I hope the audience who is listening to this podcast can also relate to certain patterns and could identify what is happening around them in their organization and identify whether it is actually agile or it is, the performance that everyone is doing around them. So that's a good way, I guess, to identify these kind of traits, whether it is performance or actual agile. Great. So, when we talk about this agile theater, how does it usually start? Does it begin with good intentions that go wrong, or is it something else?
I would say you're right on the dot. Most of the time, it starts with good intentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Company wants to move faster. They need better results. Then they start hiring consultants. They train their teams. They rename the meetings. They do all the superficial stuff, but they don't actually change. So they don't change decision rights. They don't change the incentives, the governance, the leadership behaviors. So again, it starts as something good, but due to ignorance or due to, I would say, some shallowness, um, people tend to absorb the process and not the actual behavior. So the old system remains, just wearing the
Yeah.
clothes. And Agile Theater essentially is what happens when structure stays the same, but the language changes.
Yes, correct. And I think, in my experience, also, when we talk about agile, it's not just the process, it's the mindset. The core is the mindset, right? So when the mindset starts changing, and it should happen from the leadership, because of course we are still working in those kind of organizations where decisions are top to bottom, right? So when we want to transform any project, any organization into agile, that had to happen from top to bottom. So if the leaders doesn't change their mindset where they have to loosen up some kind of control and make it more process oriented or autonomous, or give some powers to the people who are actually working on ground zero, I think then probably things might start changing and theater might not be needed. So yes, very well said. And this gets me to another question: is what would it take for an organization stuck in agile theater to shift towards something more? uh, what do you think, according to your experience?
I can tell you that training doesn't help. Better
Mm-hmm.
tools don't help. Being more strict when it comes to the framework doesn't help. Um, it requires mostly courage at the leadership level first, and courage not to challenge the people that are working with them, but to actually empower the team and trust they will come to the right decision. So requires courage to regarding specifically clarity about who can decide what. Right? If it's a technical decision, you don't trust an executive to do that. You call the developer.
Yeah.
Um, it needs alignment between incentives and outcomes. Usually, we are only tracking outputs, how much the features we are delivering. You have to allow the team permission to experiment and learn. Mistakes, not that they are welcome, but they are received as just something else, points of data
Mm.
that we use to learn. You have to have tolerance for short-term uncertainty. which is very
Mhm.
unusual when it comes to companies. And you have to bring psychological safety to surface problems. Call things like they are. If something is wrong, it needs to be fixed. Is it bad or good? Depends on how you treat it. So, and the most uncomfortable shift, you have to stop from asking who's responsible and start asking what is the system telling us. Agility begins when organizations stop protecting certainty and they start protecting learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for those tips. And I hope that people do understand that how they could bring courage in their day to day work so that they actually feel that, how good or how beneficial agile could be, not just on paper, not just what the world is doing, but yes, actually how agile could help in terms of process improvement, in terms of faster deliveries, and of course, when the end goal is to make your clients happy, that's the whole process where it will get us to their client delivery, right? So, I hope the audience must have benefited out of this conversation. And thank you so much for answering all my questions. Thank you so much for accepting the request to come here. And also, a request to the audience that if you want to connect with Israel, feel free. I'll share the link of his LinkedIn in my comment section. And yes, if you have any questions, any topic that you would like to be discussed on this channel, please feel free to drop a comment and subscribe Next Gen Agile with Shefali. Yes, Israel. So, how was your feeling, and how do you feel about coming on the podcast?
I loved it. Honestly, you can count on me for any future endeavors. You're
Mhm.
an amazing host and an amazing agilist as well. So whenever you need me, just call me back.
Yes, yes, of course. We'll be having more podcast sessions for sure because the experience that Israel has is huge. So I would really love to have you again here. So thank you so much for your time and thank you for watching.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.